Welcome to the Enlace Media Studio. I'm Victoria.
And I'm Martin. And on today's segment, we'll be adventuring with the Curious Twins Paranormal on one of their ghost adventure tours.
Recently, our team was sent out to one of the oldest operating cemeteries in San Antonio.
Guiding us through our paranormal investigation were paranormal investigators Fred and Stephen, founders of Curious Twins Paranormal.
Starting off our ghost journey, our friend Terry had a one-on-one interview with one of the Curious Twins, Fred.
Hey Fred, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Before we get started, can you give a brief summary of what exactly is Curious Twins?
So what we do is we offer tours throughout the city of San Antonio and actually surrounding areas occasionally. Our idea is that we want to educate people about the history of San Antonio, especially the darker history, the stuff that we don't always like to talk about, the stuff that people sometimes get really excited to talk about. And we have so much of that. We have a lot of indigenous history.
Okay, so you claim that there's more to San Antonio than we know. Would you say the city, is more haunted than we realize?
A lot of ways. Like, I think one of the things that haunts are the stories that are needing to come out, the stories about our flooding that has happened here, that affected the west side, that affected downtown, about our indigenous people and their displacement here, about the Texas history, including brown people, including indigenous people. And so there's so much of those literal haunts that aren't just the ghosts, but are the stories that really are haunting because they really are disturbing in a lot of ways.
What is the type of equipment that you would use for your investigations?
So what I use to help people are really myself. I consider myself to be an intuitive person. My grandmother was intuitive. My great-grandmother was intuitive. And so I utilize that, but we also use a couple of other things like a K2 meter that kind of just looks at the electromagnetic fields around us. We'll use audio recorders, temperature gauges. These are kind of the basic things that we do utilize, as well as kind of video and those kinds of things that you can kind of use from time to time. My goal is not to really just collect a lot of evidence at a haunt. It's really to help somebody or to tell a story that maybe a spirit is trying to explain.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Fred. And I understand you have some events coming up, especially with you're always doing cemetery tours.
We're big cemetery nerds. My partner and I, Stephen, we try to travel all over the country visiting cemeteries, but one of our favorite cemeteries is right here in our city. It's City Cemetery number 1. We give it tours out of it. We share history. We point out symbology. We look at the structures that that people have built to memorialize people throughout San Antonio's history. And so it's a lot of fun because it really is not just a ghost tour. It's a history tour, and it's really a chance to kind of learn more about our city and about death and about the practices that have been going on in San Antonio for over 5,000 years. And you guys are welcome to come on our cemetery tour.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. I got to check that out myself. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
And we'll be taking that offer for sure. Are you excited, Victoria?
No, I'm not. I'm scared.
Are you scared of a little ghost?
For sure.
We met up with Fred and Stephen in downtown San Antonio at City Cemetery number 1. Where they invited us very openly to the tour itself. I was very excited about it, and I wasn't afraid of no ghosts. How are you feeling, Victoria?
Honestly, days before and going into the tour, I was shaking in my boots.
Really?
Yes, the whole car ride there, I was sweating and I was nervous and I didn't know what was going to happen to me. But when we got there, we got to personally interview Fred and Stephen, and they definitely reassured us that their tour is not like any other typical jump scare filled, scary ghost emphasis tour. They focus more on the educational aspects, and they really try to put the normal and paranormal. Our tour guides Fred and Stephen gave us the brief history on gravestones, from symbolism to burial practices and the evolution of modern day graveyards.
So let's look at this one right up here, the one all the way up. That's referred to as a draped urn. And in cemetery symbology, it's kind of important because for a while, we as American people didn't recognize grief as something that is tragic. It was a matter of fact. We get that kind of from the Puritans. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But it was very matter of fact. And there was a time that we just looked at death as very, very normal, and we try to get over it very quickly. And so when we get these symbols, the Victorian symbols of the draped urn, it was this personification that, yeah, death was hard. When somebody dies, sometimes we are full with sadness. And so this idea was meant to give us hope that it's draped for a reason, and it symbolizes the land of the living is only but a curtain away from the land of the dead. It's supposed to make us feel that our loved ones that have passed aren't that far, and that they're not something that we should grieve in a way that we won't ever see them again, but that it would be temporary. And so that's how we get this symbol. The two hands, a lot of people will symbolize that being with marriage, but it's not. It's actually a little bit more literal, a little more spooky when we think about it. So we have this hand right here, very stiff, not going anywhere. It can't go anywhere because that hand actually symbolizes the hand of the deceased. That's why it's stiff. Now this other hand that is clasped around it, it symbolizes the hand of the living. And thus the meaning is that one day the living has to say goodbye to the dead. And that's all that the symbol means. It can be utilized for children. It can be utilized for married couples, for adults. It is something that is utilized from the 1800s all the way until today. Some people still choose to utilize the symbol.
Fred and Stephen do their best to place more emphasis on the normal and paranormal, with how they told us stories connected to the different grave sites we went to. But that doesn't mean we weren't shocked to hear some of the gruesome tales. Terry was certainly fascinated by the stories of an execution gone wrong. Fred later discusses the infamous red light district and its controversy.
The second idea was that any call home, any brothel, no matter if you could serve 500 clients at a time or one client at a time, you were going to pay the city of San Antonio a $500 fee to have that license. Now, the weird thing about the license is that when we follow the money, it really didn't always go to the city of San Antonio. It was really kind of ending up in the pocket of Brian Callahan and this gentleman right here. That was questioned. There was actually even a madam that took Brian Callahan and Frederick Gross to court, won the case, all to have it overthrown by a court in Austin, and then she was actually put in an insane asylum by Frederick Gross and Brian Callahan for not going along with their scheme. There was a lot of women that were hurt from the way that they operated their business. There was a lot of injustice. There were a lot of women who were just completely taken advantage of. And so when I come here and I tell these stories, we've kind of noticed that this is the creepiest area of the entire cemetery for us. And I think it's because we don't tell these people's story in the best light. We tell the truth. We tell how women suffered under them. And we've had all kinds of strange things happen here. One, having these weird stuff with these stones over here. We've also had an orb that we've seen that kind of generated right over here. Nice green orb that kind of went right into the parking lot and then just completely disappeared. So if you want during investigation time to come back here and to ask some questions and to kind of get a feel for yourself, you are more than welcome to do so.
We learn how to connect to the afterlife by being taught how to use paranormal equipment like the dowsing rod and the EMF detector. The dowsing rod's primary use is to locate water, but here we use it to communicate with the dead.
Maybe you know the answers to it first. And so you can ask, is my mother's maiden name this? Was I born on, this date? And those are all good practice questions to ask before you start asking questions from the other side. And so some people start with the question, once they start asking, is there somebody around with us? Is there a spirit here? And then you can go from there.
And explore we did. I was excited to investigate all surrounding areas of the cemetery and have the possibility of speaking with someone from the other side.
I don't want to ask the questions, Art. You do that. As Stephen advises to, we started things off by asking basic yes or no questions before going more in depth.
Before we began communicating, we started off with understanding how the spirits would respond to our questions as we finished setting up. One of the spirits we tried speaking to was a businessman who only wanted to speak with women.
Whoever's out there, do you just want women to talk to you? It's crossing. So that's a yes. Oh.
Victoria back in.
What do you have your thing? Are you buried in this plot? Yeah. Yes.
Why is it moving so hard?
No. I'm like squeezing it pretty tightly too.
Dude, I want to talk to the dude more. Okay, I'm out.
After freaking ourselves out a bit, especially since one of us started hearing owls nearby, we decided to end things there. That wasn't until I read on our EMF detector that the temperature kept dropping. And this led our videographer Trey to talk to the spirit of a doctor.
You buried around me. Okay. Oh.
Are you old?
Are you Dr. John Neal? Oh, it's a doctor. Dude, we got an educated man with us. Okay.
And that was the official end of our investigation. Our team left the downtown cemetery with a different perspective than we walked in with. Overall, the tour was entertaining and informative. We were given a lot of information about graveyards and the people of San Antonio.
But you know what, Victoria? Fred was right. The stories of those buried there were a lot more haunting than they were paranormal.
I would agree with you. A lot of the stories that were told were heartbreaking and sad, but they were tales that needed to be told.
Would you want to go on another paranormal adventure?
Only if it's with the Curious Twins.
Well, let's get to it then. I'm Art.
And I'm Victoria.
And this was Enlace Media Lab.
Thank y'all so much for watching.
We'll catch you next time. Bye.